Welcome to Training for Process Instrumentation. My name is Dieter Haas. In this tutorial we will focus on the pressure transmitter SITRANS P320 P420 in SIL version. SIL stands for Safety Integrity Level. The SITRANS P320 P420 is designed according to IEC 61508 standards for SIL 2-3. For SIL commissioning you have two options. One is SIL commissioning and validation centrally, for example from the control room, or local operation on the device. We will activate and deactivate the functional safety of a SIL device via the display using the buttons. We will show you which parameters are needed to be checked and set for this purpose. Furthermore, we will carry out the acknowledgement of a safety critical error. Then we will look at parameter 36, overload behavior. It defines the reaction of the device when the measuring range of the sensor is exceeded, at overpressure or under pressure. For this tutorial, we use a SITRANS P420 differential pressure transmitter in SIL version with the 5-bar measuring cell. The adjustment of a SITRANS P320 is identical. The pressure transmitter used has the firmware 1.01. If you want to do the tutorial with a SITRANS P320 P420 on your own, you need a SIL device. Otherwise, the SIL parameters are not available. How do we recognize that a pressure transmitter is a SIL device? The order code on the type plate must contain a C20. The type plate also shows the firmware version FW. In the following section we will set the basic parameters or already set them. If you are not familiar with these basic settings, we recommend the basic tutorial or manual. You can access the manual via QR code or the PR Lifecycle portal. We have already preset the parameter 01 pressure unit, millibar. The following parameters are called safety-related parameters in SIL and must be checked. We have also preset parameter 02, lower range minus 500 millibar, which corresponds to the 4 mA, and parameter 03, upper range, plus 4500 millibar. The set values for the lower range and upper range must be within the lower and upper measurement limits according to the SIL requirements. For the following parameters, we have not changed the factory settings in this tutorial. Parameter 04, damping. Damping value is 2 seconds in the factory setting. Parameter 05, application. Application parameters, pressure. For SIL application, in addition to pressure, allowed level applications and flow applications can be set. Parameter 14, saturate high. Upper saturation limit is 20.5 mA. This value can be adjusted between 20 mA and upper fault current. The default value is 20.5 mA, which we will keep in our tutorial. An example for increasing the value would be you want to evaluate the measuring signal in the control system to detect an overload. With a higher set saturation limit, the current value follows up to the set value. Now we are in parameter 36. In order to meet the different safety philosophies of our customers, the overload behavior can be selected with parameter 36, overload behavior. This parameter determines whether an alarm or only a warning is triggered when the lower range value, LRL, is undercut or the upper range value, URL, is exceeded in SIL mode. LRL and URL define the limits of the permissible measuring range of the measuring cell. The factory setting for parameter 36 overload behavior is alarm. This means that the transmitter outputs a fault current 3.55 mA or less if the deviation is more than 10%. This error must be acknowledged. If such a behavior is not desired, for example in case of a cascade measurement, the device can be switched from alarm to warning. In this case, no fault current will be the output, but a current signal remains in the saturation state. When the pressure returns to the measuring limits, the current corresponding to the pressure value is displayed again. Switching from alarm to warning has an influence on the SIL characteristics. Details can be found in the SIL Declaration of Conformity, but in both cases, the characteristics are suitable for operation in a SIL 2 application or SIL 3 application with redundant configuration, for example with the SFF safe failure fraction above 90%. Example for a cascade measurement. We have the 5-bar differential pressure measuring cell with a static nominal pressure of 160 bar and a permissible measuring span of 5000 millibar. The customer works at a static pressure of 0 bar. The pressure is normally between minus 500 millibar and plus 4500 millibar. Occasionally a pressure of 110 bar is required in the process. This pressure value cannot be measured with the 5-bar transmitter. An additional transmitter is required for this. If the pressure transmitter is now in SIL mode in the alarm setting, the device mode's safety critical error would be activated. The current output signal corresponds to the fault current less than or equal to 3.55 mA and the diagnostic message is displayed. This safety critical error must be acknowledged. If in parameter 36 overload behavior warning is set, the device outputs the set saturation current at 110 bar. The default value, as already discussed, is 20.5 mA. We will show you this behavior later. After we have checked the settings of the safety-related parameters, we proceed with the activation of the functional safety. In the manual there is a checklist with which you can document the steps for activating functional safety. To get to the SIL mode, the user pin must be activated. The user pin has the function of a write protection. The measured values and parameter values can only be read. To change a parameter and operate a device function, the user pin must be entered. The user pin 2457 is set and deactivated in the standard delivery. If a different user pin is assigned and this user pin is no longer known, you can obtain a device-specific PUC pin unlucky from the support team. In parameter 27, user pin, we can activate the user pin. We press the right arrow button. We see user pin on for 2 seconds. To allow you to change your settings without having to enter the pin for each parameter, the write protection is activated first after 10 minutes. After 10 minutes or after device restart, parameter changes require the entry of the user pin via the keys. In this tutorial, we will change the user pin. For this, we go to the parameter 24. Change user pin. We press the right arrow button and the text New Pin appears. The cursor and symbol Edit flashes. Use the up-down arrow buttons to set the number you want. Pressing the right arrow button moves the cursor 1 digit to the right, with a value between 1 and 65,535. If you only set the value 1, you have to press the right arrow button several times to scroll through all 5 digits. In this example, we set the user pin to the value 19000. If I press the arrow button up or down, the 0 appears. I press the arrow button up, 0. Arrow button up, 1. Arrow button right, next digit. Arrow button down, 0. Arrow button down, 9. Arrow button right, next digit. Down arrow button, 0. Right arrow button, next digit. Down arrow button, 0. Right arrow button, next digit. Arrow button down, 0. Arrow button right now. We are in the repeat window. I have to enter the pin again. Arrow button right, change user pin completed. The pin change has been accepted. If the two user pins do not match, the message failed is displayed. Then repeat the user pin entry. The safety related parameters O2, lower range value, O3, upper range value, O4, damping value, O5, application parameters, 14, saturation high, upper saturation limit, as well as 36, overload behavior have been set and checked before. With parameter 28, you can see which operating mode the device is in. Example, STD is displayed when SIL is inactive. In parameter 29, functional safety, we can activate functional safety via the assistant. Enclosed, you can see the flowchart. There are 3 procedures for this, depending on your operational requirements. In it, you can see the individual steps that we will execute in the next minutes on the device. There are 3 possibilities to activate the SIL mode. These 3 are building on each other. Number 3, activate functional safety without validation, also known as one click to SIL. Number 2, activation of functional safety after validation of safety-related parameter and without validation of the safety function. Number 1, activate functional safety after validation of safety-related parameters and safety function. This is the recommended method. In parameter 29, we start the assistant for activating functional safety by pressing the right arrow button. Now the display test runs automatically and we check if the numbers, texts and symbols are displayed correctly. When the display test is complete, the device offers the selection Enable or Valid. If Enable is selected and the right arrow button is pressed once, the functional safety is activated. Display is functional safety valid. This corresponds to point 3, activating functional safety without validation. Better is the selection Valid. It corresponds to number 2. Activate the functional safety after validation of safety-related parameters and without validation of the safety function. We confirm Valid with the right arrow button. Now the safety-related parameters are displayed. If a parameter needs to be corrected, you can exit the wizard by pressing the left arrow button and correct the parameter. S1. Primary variable is pressure. By pressing the right arrow button, we switch to the next parameter. S2. Damping value. Right arrow button. S3. Upper range. Right arrow button. S4. Lower range. Right arrow button. S5. Application is pressure. Right arrow button. Overload behavior. Right arrow button. S7. Upper saturation limit. After pressing the right arrow button again, the Confirm window appears. To complete the validation of the safety-related parameters, confirm with Yes. Now we are in the window Function Test Skip. We have the choice between Skip and Start. When selecting Skip, you skip the function test and activate the functional safety without validating the safety function. This corresponds to number 2. To validate the safety function, start the function test with Start. We confirm with the right arrow button. Function safety funct appears. If you have successfully validated the safety function, start the visit again and select Passed. The device is in the device mode, safety mode on. The display now shows Disable. The wizard can now be used to deactivate functional safety. We switch to the measurement view with the left arrow button. The SIL symbol appears on the display. Now we have completed the SIL commissioning. In the following steps, we will change the pressure to cause a safety critical device error. I'm changing the pressure now. As soon as the current goes into the saturation, the symbol triangle with question mark for out of specification after NE 107. Alternating with P1, info CP appears. CP stands for loop current in saturation. For this and more detailed information, refer to the chapter Diagnostic Messages in the manual. If I increase the pressure further, the NA 107 symbol circle with the cross appears, which stands for device status failure. Info displays SU, safety critical device error. The current is less than 3.55 milliamp. Now we can acknowledge the safety critical error via parameter 29. Functional safety. Right arrow button, acknowledge error. Down arrow button, yes. The device restarts. As you can see, SIL is deactivated. Now we change the parameter 36, overload behavior, from alarm to warning. I enter the pin 1, 9, 0, 0, 0 and change from alarm to warning. Confirm with the right arrow button. With the up arrow button, we go to the parameter ID 29, the assistant functional safety, and press the right arrow button. Again, the display test is performed. We validate the safety-related parameters S1 to S7 and confirm with the right arrow button. Previously, we have done number 1, activation of functional safety after validation of safety-related parameters and safety function. Now we want number 2, activation of functional safety after validation of safety-related parameters and without validation of the safety function, and confirm with the right arrow button, skip function test. The device is in the device mode, safety mode on, and the display now shows disable. The wizard can now be used to deactivate functional safety. We switch to the measurement view with the left arrow button. The SIL symbol appears on a display. As before, we increase the pressure and the NE107 symbol triangle with question mark appears. Under info CP appears CP, the output current is in saturation. If I increase the pressure further, the diagnostic message changes to CU. This means PV status uncertain. The value is outside of the physical sensor range. However, the output current remains in saturation. When I reduce the pressure and I am within the valid measuring range again, the device measures. This means cascade measurements are possible with the setting warning at parameter 36 overload behavior. Please note that you must take appropriate measures in the warning mode to prevent overload of the measuring cell. Thank you for participating in the SITRANS P320 P420 SIL commissioning tutorial.